I mean, that's kind of rude that it would be compared to McCarthy, but I guess that's, if it's accurate, it's accurate. I will do better in the future.
Yeah. Like, this would not be, I mean, like, even though it's on the shorter side of things, this would not be the first book that if someone had never, like, if someone was looking for a read that had, like, oh, I want something that's a little dark, has dark tones to it. Between your two novels, I would say, like, here's how to cure. Like, it's not too dark, but there is some pretty fucked up shit that happens in it. Would not recommend. This would not be a first recommend. This would be like, once you've gotten used to EK's style and know that she can write better, here you go.
Yeah, it's not good.
No. But, and I would say that this is only due to time constraints.
I hope
if you had
so.
taken your time, I feel like if you had taken your time, fleshed it out, made it longer, this would have been actually, this could have easily scored in the 80s had it been longer fleshed out. I don't know if I missed it, but I felt like the quote-unquote potato went nowhere.
It did. I took it out. It was coming up too much to justify in that space of time. The potato joke, there were some great potato jokes that I wrote, but I couldn't justify keeping this running gag in a book that was less than 200 pages because it's not, then I'd have had to call it the Potato Man, and he's not the Potato Man. That would be fucking funny, though.
So, who is the potato? Who? Do we even know who the potato was?
I know who the potato was.
But I didn't miss anything. It's just not mentioned in this book.
It will come up later.
In a different book?
Yes.
Or in like a short story collection that continues this. I don't know what.
I haven't. It's gonna come up again later.
Because I just felt like, I'm like, why? Like, that went nowhere.
The problem was that it kept going everywhere, and I needed it to stop going everywhere because, I couldn't justify all those potato jokes. Okay. They were really fucking funny, though. I had a whole thing where he was referring, like, in his head, he would just refer to Eldritch as Potato 2.
Okay.
But I couldn't, Eldritch wasn't going to die like a potato. Like, he wasn't going to be made into a potato, so I couldn't justify it.
Okay. So,
because otherwise it would have been really fucking funny, and I just couldn't. I really should have rewrote Eldritch's ending. I didn't have time.
You gave yourself a month. Like, you should have.
I know, it shows.
I don't want to put a minimum on what would have made this substantially better. I don't want to say 3 months. I would say at least give yourself 6 months to be at least at this length of a novel. Well, not 6 months, maybe 3 months for this length of a novel.
Start to finish, yeah, I would say at least 3 months. 3 months for a reasonable first draft.
And then give yourself like another 2 to 3 months to sift through it and tighten it up.
And get it all put together, yeah.
Yeah. So
that's what I would think. If I had done 6 months instead of 1 month. But that's kind of the moral of the story, is don't rush.
Yeah, well, and that's where, like as soon as I finished it, I'm like, yeah, this really does prove the point we made in the last video. Do not rush your work. Like, do not give yourself a deadline. And then if you're coming to a crunch, don't be like, oh well, this is what you're getting. Here you go.
No.
Like extend, give yourself an extension. But anyways, welcome back to Murder of Prose, where we review books. We pass judgment on the ones we enjoyed and condemned the ones we hate. So far, there have only been 2 that we've hated. If you are a regular who watches, if you're the one regular who watches our channel, you know which 2 books those are. Today we're going to be reviewing At the Hands of the Laughing Man, the second novel, although you'll say third, but I would say second because your first was Still Had a Cure, just different. Anyway, second publication. It's a novella by E.K. Lloyd Williams. Genre, I would call this not exactly a thriller, but I would say it's a character study, anything, into the mind of a killer. Anyway.
That's a very unlikely kind of killer, but
very unlikely. And there's one kill scenario that is very out of character for this man, which we'll get to with the plot. Plot, I gave it a 6. There is not enough here to feel like a fluid story. I felt like we were just going from one kind of set piece to the next almost. Like each chapter was like, okay, this is what happens. Then we got this. Oh, now we're moving here. Now we're going there, and it just felt almost episodic in a sense, which I'm pretty sure Ithaca felt episodic, so I get it. And I don't know if that was your intention of making it feel in that, especially since you have 2 chapters that have the word episode in it, although I think that was just in reference to episodes being his kills.
Yes.
Because at the end he says 88.
Yes.
So, although, since playing out episode 80, he kills 2 people. Wouldn't the next one be episode 82? Or does he just count those 2 kills as?
Counts them as 1. When he said 88 total, he was counting
the bodies.
Okay. But he counted the ghouls as 1 because it was a single episode in which 2 people died.
Okay. And episode 80 is actually the kill that I think felt out of character, because given what the other victims were to Jonah, they were, like, you had the pedophile that comes up later in the book. That's an actual, that's a danger to children, people, whatever, menaces to society, as to where Zach and Misty just felt like nuisances. They're meth addicts and they kind of a nuisance in the neighborhood, but were they really a threat to? I mean, Jonah probably saw them as a threat to his son and grandson, but they hadn't really done it, other than drugs and fighting in public.
Have you had to live next door to meth heads for an extended period of time?
Extended? No. Have I lived next to them? Yes. Not extended, just for...
No, if they're there all the time and they're screaming in the street twice a week. Speaking from experience.
You want to kill them, but would you feel that... Because I'm assuming
he was Jonah annoyed.
But he's
annoyed and was looking for an excuse.
I'm still gonna say it's out of character. I'm still gonna say it's out of character because it doesn't fit his moral code of his past kills. Although, not knowing who the fucking potato was, I'm gonna say he's spiraling. Like he's in his 70s, he's spiraling, like he's de-evolving. His code is now out the door.
The potato did trespass.
That's not a justifiable means of killing.
The fuck it ain't.
Maybe in today's day and age, well, I don't know when this fucking book takes place, but
There are places in this country where there are otherwise decent people, but if you set foot on their property and they don't know who you are, they will kill you. And they won't think twice about it. That is not out of character for living in the Ozarks.
not for living in the Ozarks, but when we're
He
talking
lives
about
in the Ozarks.
a serial killer who tend to have, you know, a type. I don't think, oh, he got on my property, unless there are other property trespassing victims that we don't know about, because, you know, there are 88 victims to account for.
Jonah doesn't have types.
He just kills.
He eschewed types on purpose because types are pattern, or like types helps to establish a pattern, and patterns.
Maybe not a type, but he has like a litmus. Like, you have to have fucked a child in the ass. You have to have.
No, you don't.
That's what is basically implied when he brings up like other people he's killed, that they've been threats to society, not nuisances.
He tried to implement this code around the time that his marriage fell apart, and his marriage fell apart because he was just killing everybody he could see. So he was never home. I thought that I had, obviously I did not impart that. I thought that I had made that clear when I was going, because there's a whole thing, I think it's in the beginning, where he's just reflecting on how he got into this kind of mess. And the mess he's in is because, like, his wife didn't want to be married to him anyway. She would have found an excuse to leave him one way or the other. But him being out most weekends killing somebody, Anyway. No, Jonah does not have a type. Types can lead to pattern recognition, and pattern recognition leads to getting caught.
Either way, the plot itself felt choppy.
Yes.
I felt like, had you given this room to breathe, it would have flowed more, but this felt very choppy. Felt like we were just hopping from one set piece to the next.
Yeah.
Characters, I gave you a 3. So I didn't feel like we kind of got to know Jonah, but like that was it. Like, and I felt like we could have even gotten to know Jonah more. Like, again, flashback chapters or sequences would have played into that. But other than that, it just felt like everyone was sort of merely existing in the book to push the plot forward. Everyone did feel, I won't say unique. There were some voices that kind of read the same, like a lot of like there was a slight difference between Dale and Eldritch, but like, and then what was it Barb? Was Barb the waitress in Tammy's?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Like, she had a slight difference, but like everyone else just kind of felt like they were there. However, when it does come to characters, and again, I don't want to presume this was intentional, but with it's you, so I will presume it was. I know I just contradicted myself, but I feel like you did purposefully name the main 3, Jonah, Isaac, and Levi. I feel like you gave them biblical names on purpose.
It was a theme.
Yeah, it was a motif.
Technically a motif. Technically a leitmotif.
Like, because, Jonah is the man who defies God, or in this case, is playing God by killing and taking lives. Isaac, now I know like Isaac is not actually sacrificed, but in this one he is, so it's like playing with that convention a little bit. And then of course Levi being the importance and repercussions of actions that our children or descendants will pay for the sins of the father. That was another thing you always mentioned when you're referring to either Isaac or Levi or Jonah and Isaac. It was always the father and the son. You never said between father and son. It was between the father and the son. So like, there's another sort of biblical allusion, like with your wordplay. So I know that I'm pretty sure that was intentional.
You're pretty sure it was intentional?
I'm pretty sure that was intentional on your part to say the father and the son.
Yeah. Yeah, it
And also, you know, mentioning the whole fishing part, the fishers of men, whatever, kind of like teaching Levi to fish.
that wasn't that's just
that
a common pastime here.
Okay.
So it was readily available, but it's nice when things
like
work out.
I just figured that was like a logical leap because like there's so much especially when it comes to the names and like what the names allude to. I'm like fishing, like we'll just go to the fishermen. We are fishermen anyway. So
No, it's just a common pastime here.
this is common pastime. Okay, so nix that one.
But it's nice that it worked out.
It did. But yeah, characters. I felt like you just again that would have probably been better fleshed out. They would have been fleshed out had this been longer, but I get it. You're in a limited runtime with only 159, 58.
It was 159.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your style, you get an 8 for style. It only goes down because it did remind me of McCarthy, and I'm just not the biggest fan of the. I get that it was the purpose to be methodical, especially in chapter 2. But I mean, 8's not a bad score, but it.
No.
Although your style does kind of play into your extra credit, that comes up later. So, like, I guess if you throw the extra credit where the extra credit was gleaned from, technically got an 11 out of 10 for style. Like, that's where the extra credit would
So
go.
the extra credit was just on style.
Just strictly on style. And you'll see what I mean when I get there.
Okay.
Concept and execution. Concept got a 4.5. How? Now, while not the most original, actually no. I should flip these. No, I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep it the same. 4.5 for concept. While not the most original, again, I was merely basing it that all of the allusions to biblical references were intentional, which I feel like most of them were. Like adding a biblical context to a serial killer character study essentially was what this was almost. Most people don't go with that kind of angle. They go for more of the depravity strictly, and that's it, like shock value. As to where I've, especially given the plot of the story, where it's like essentially Jonah bit off more than he could chew, and it came back to essentially be his downfall. That was a good play on this type of story. Execution, I gave it a 2. So an overall score of 6.5. Execution, merely because this, like I said, with the plot, and it goes with the execution, this felt very choppy. I felt like we didn't really stay not only with this story, but we didn't stay in specific sections or time frames long enough to really kind of let it soak in.
Mm.
So 6.5 overall for those. Structure gets a 6, and that comes back to
Plot.
Plot and the length, and because like I said, like I would have liked a little more backstory on Jonah, even if those were in the form of flashback chapters or just sequences. I felt like this was very much because you know how they tell you to show, don't tell, but like you kind of want a balance of the two. I say you don't want all show, but you don't want all tell. I felt like this was more tell than show.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I feel like
In what
had
respect?
you done the like when Jonah's like thinking back on his past, like that's a tell. That's him telling. Like I would have liked to have seen his past. Again, going back to flashback chapters. Or even like if you wrote a prequel to this, or a very lengthy prologue, like a prologue that's the length of the book, and then just intersperse it throughout the book. So it's not a prologue; it's just.
So what you're saying is that I should rewrite the book and make it longer?
Yes, and also in terms of it's kind of structure, but it's also your execution just a tad, so that kind of bleeds in. The newspaper article at the end. We've seen that with How to Cure, and it feels kind of like an easy cop-out to like explain things. Like it just felt like it's basically like it's basically an exposition / info dump at the very end that you didn't I felt like you just didn't have the time or didn't know how to tell it without it feeling like a
Mostly I just didn't have the time to think about how to tell it. Like that's the thing about doing newspaper pieces. It's a very cheap way to do exposition.
It is, but it worked so much better in How to Cure. Like it didn't feel out of place, and it didn't feel like, oh, this is what's happening. It felt because you had time with that character who was the journalist, who was doing research. So it felt like you had earned that article, as to where this just was there.
If I were going to do it again, I would probably do most of like what Laughing Man is now. I would probably do that as flashbacks. And then I would make the journalist and the police detective probably two of my main leads.
So yeah.
That would be, I think, the more interesting way to tell the story.
Yeah. And that would have actually, we'll get to that, but doing it that way actually probably would have also kind of made the formatting a little more interesting. Like, especially like if you could make, like with how I did it in How to Cure, which I'm kind of disappointed that I didn't do it with this one. I forgot to ask if that's what you wanted, and I just kind of kept it regular text. Was do it in like a 2-column, like how newspapers usually are when it's a smaller. Although with this kind of news story, it would have taken up the entire middle section, so it would have been more long and rectangular. But like make it look like an actual newspaper clipping. Like I would have drawn.
Well, I was kind of hoping for that, but I think just with the amount of time.
Yeah, there was a bit of a time crunch, and
literally 30 days.
And I think even like when you finally got it to me, I had less than like a week to
do anything to it.
So like had you not even had that time crunch, which put me on a crunch, I feel like I would have given more effort into making this look a little better. Now, when it comes to your diction, you do have a great command of language. There was, like, I'm not playing it against you because I know you were rushed during this, but there's one where you put the wrong road.
Oh fuck!
You meant you meant ROAD, but you put RODE.
God damn it!
And it tripped me up for a second because I'm like, wait, am I reading this wrong? And like, no, it's just the wrong word. Okay. And there were obviously like there were.
How I feel when I read your books and you use the wrong word and won't let anyone proofread it so they can find that and change it.
And there were also like a few missing letters, which there was one where it's supposed to be they, but it was the, and then like missing words altogether, or there was an added word that should have been omitted. But that I'm not gonna play that into your diction because your diction was otherwise immaculate in terms of how sentences were phrased and how characters were talking. Like, even I didn't really care for it, but it made sense that Levi, when he spoke like Timothy, like
Timothy,
he's 4, like yeah. He's 4, like I get it, but like I was just like I hate looking at it.
I did too. I was looking. I was like, oh god, that's gonna drive me nuts.
I'm like, oh my god. But other than that, diction was fine. That's your one perfect score of the bullet points. Formatting, you get an 8. And here is why it's an 8. Other than my failure to.
Did you pat yourself on the back?
Yeah.
There you go.
The font that you decided on and that I agreed to for the Laughing Man sections, having to read several pages of that was hard.
Yeah.
That was hard. Like,
yeah, it was. I
feel like that should have just been same font italicized like you did with flashback sequences. Because this was hard to read, especially, or at least picked a better font that's similar to this, but doesn't have because there are some letters that are, I mean, I get that it helps for like dyslexic people to like have certain letters thicker or more bold. That's what I've read somewhere. But it doesn't help a regular person. I'm like, what? Anyway, other than that, perfectly fine. Oh, and like you did say that you did change stuff and then made it a PDF again.
Did it fuck up the...
It fucked up the italics because you have the Badani font, but you have to also download the italic font and then install that so the italics look how they look on my computer, which are a little more ornate. This just looks like you took with this. It just looks like it's the regular font, just off to the side.
I think I have.
So, like next time you want to change something, send me the ODT and I'll make it a PDF again, or whatever, or just.
No, I don't have the Badani italic. So, I just have Badani standard book.
Like as soon as I opened the page and I saw that the italics were like off, I'm like, no, oh that's partially on me, but also partially on you. And I won't hold it. I'm not gonna really hold, and that didn't really affect your formatting. It was mostly that whatever font that was, the typewriting font. Like a Cold Night for Alligators reads easier.
Ironically, yes.
That's the blood one. Length. That got a 6. Felt like this could have been twice as long, and I would not have complained. I kind of wanted a whole other novella to read out of this. Especially because the only other than I wouldn't even say like when he kills Matthew Dale and Eldridge and the Sheriff Moore, like everybody. That wasn't really all that graphic. Like chapter 2 is graphic, and that was like to me like the setting the standard of like what the other kills should have been. Like it should have been.
Literally, like, I just ran out of time.
That's fine, but I will say this, and I'm not saying like boring is the word, but chapter 1 was so slow. I was not expecting to take the nosedive that was chapter 2, because like, especially like with How to Cure, like you kind of not exactly took a nosedive, but you like had your first brush with violence when Mitch kills the girl. Like it's okay, like this is gonna be like a fucked up book because like he just killed basically a teenage.
And Brenda killed her.
Oh yeah, Brenda. And but Brenda then Mitch. Sorry, and then Mitch continued to fuck her.
Yeah. Yeah, you had chapter 1 of How to Cure was, you know, racial slurs, human trafficking, murder, and necrophilia.
Like at least chapter 1 of that book kind of set the tone. Chapter 1 subverted I mean, I shouldn't have subverted expectation because this is a book about a serial killer, but chapter 1 just seemed very everyday.
La for the most part.
La 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 la. Oh, like it was just like, okay, he's doing this.
This is happening.
Like, anyway.
What is he doing to her privates?
Well, yeah. Quotability.
So basically, her hands were coming out like this.
Yeah, like a flower.
Yeah.
Yeah. She fisted herself.
Well, wristed herself, but
reverse. She gave birth. Well, has to go through some way. It's fisting. Doesn't have to go in. It could be coming out. Anyway, quotability gets a 0 for me. I couldn't really. Nothing stuck out to any degree.
No, not really.
I feel like that was the purpose of this book. I don't feel like there was really going to be anything.
Nope.
Like, so like, in a way, I kind of wish I didn't have to count it against you, but it is a bullet point. So 0.
No, we set it up as a bullet point, so.
We did, but like, anyway, satisfaction, it got a 4. Like I said, it was over before I could really enjoy it. Like this felt like if this were a visual medium, this was like a 15-minute like collage of violence and sprinkled among the everyday, like, here's a guy making breakfast and now he's killing people. And I was like, oh, now I'm gonna have lunch and coffee. Now I'm gonna kill more people. I'm gonna kill one guy and call him a potato. And now we're having dinner as a family. Oh, get out of my house, you're in danger.
I know, I hated that. Like, I hated it so fucking
much. Oh no, you're dead.
I hated that. God, I hated it so fucking much. It didn't make any sense. But see, like, that's like, I didn't have the time to make it make sense. And that's, like, I fucking hated it.
But like I said, the mechanics of this, like, the writing is not bad. This is not a poorly written novel, despite you being sped through it. Like,
it's a very neat pile of trash.
Yes, it's a very neat. Yes, it's not like molding food in your garbage can. This is just basically like the wrappers. Like, it's just paper waste. It's by no means kind of smell. It's just not pleasant to look at. Because
it's
especially
there's a lot of this that I wouldn't. Yeah, no, I wouldn't score it particularly high either, just because there were so many elements of it that got left out. There were so many parts of it that didn't make sense.
And maybe if it were longer, those potato jokes would have not felt so.
Those potato jokes would have landed.
Especially like if you're referring to someone as potato too.
It still makes me laugh thinking about it. Maybe I'm the only one who would ever find that funny, but like, oh god, I wish I just wanted to keep it, and I couldn't justify it because he didn't end up like a potato, and I didn't have time to make a plan
Yeah.
for him to end up like a potato.
There was like the potato, especially not knowing who the fuck it was. Like there was a lot of like, okay, like the closer I got to the end, I'm like, I'm not gonna find out who that is. Why bring them up?
Here's the thing. Jonah doesn't know who it is either.
Okay.
The guy knows who he is.
Was it someone in Dale's like team that was like doing
No.
recon?
No, it was someone from Jonah's past who he had.
Again, our flashback sequences would have come in handy.
I know.
Like to have like maybe like especially if you stretched this out, like having like maybe the sudden realization of who he was through like thinking back or whatever.
But see, like Jonah didn't even register him. He didn't register him at all. He had no idea who this just guy was who showed up at his house.
Okay.
For no goddamn reason in the middle of the night. So he's like, fuck it. And then he killed him. And then he buried him under a little sapling.
So, and then for extra credit, I gave you 3 points because for a genre dominated primarily by male writers, this read...
That feels like you're throwing me the gayest bone
This
ever.
read better than most on a technical and visceral level. You're not Thomas Harris by any stretch.
No, I'm not.
But you're so better than fucking Stephen King. You're better than, I think, Dean Koontz. Like, so for a woman, this read better because women are usually like are kind of viewed that they can't write this genre because they're too like any other woman would have glossed over the whole, you know, like that detail and the entire Zach Misty chapter altogether. They would have glossed over that and it would have just been like, oh, they wouldn't even have gone that much into detail or been that fucking gruesome with the kill. Men are typically seen, especially as writers, they're more like they'll write the gruesome detail, especially if it's a woman that it's happening to, and then they're viewed as misogynistic. So in a way, like you can write it and you can get away with it because it's like, I'm not misogynistic, I'm a woman. See, vagina.
Well, they would still say
this was like, oh, man. What?
They would still say it's misogynistic.
That's.
However, I would like to point out that, you know, Jonah only kills one woman in the entire book.
That we know about.
Well, no, in the book.
In the book.
Not overall. He's killed lots of women. He doesn't have a type.
I wouldn't say like a type. I would just say a standard. That they have to have at least.
Whoever I can hide the easiest.
Why didn't he kill the girl?
Dale's daughter?
No, the girl, Misty and Zach's.
Oh, the little girl?
Like,
because he's mellow.
Even though, like, yeah, he's like potentially giving her like, oh, she can go to a better family. She's psychologically fucked up now.
No, I know. He has that fight with himself in his head, and then he's like, yeah, but
Like,
I just couldn't. Yeah, but I don't want to kill a kid.
doesn't
Maybe
matter. Like
maybe
oh,
40
maybe
years ago, but I don't want to kill a kid. And then this other part of himself is going, she's already fucked up, and there's a chance she could recognize you.
yeah.
And he's just like, ah, nah, she'll repress it.
Repressed doesn't mean she's not fucked up.
Well, no, she's still
She's fucked
definitely
up.
fucked up. Like, she is fucked
He
up.
fucked up a little kid. Like he fucked
Like,
her up.
she is rattled. That little girl is fucking
Like
rattled.
especially because like he gave her like a piece of paper and was like, she's fucked up. She's fucked.
But I mean, he ended up losing, like, it balanced out because, like, he fucked up the little girl, but then he ended up losing Levi.
True.
And the whole point of him going over there was because of a perceived threat to Levi.
So and to that point, Levi lives up to his name in terms of the biblical allusion of the children or descendants will pay for the sins of the father. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
in this case, the grandfather,
Mm-hmm.
father of fathers,
Mm-hmm.
God.
No, just Jonah. He's
I
not.
know.
Oh, that's okay.
He's taking matters into his own hands by taking lives, which could have some people would view that as having a bit of a god complex.
I don't
Maybe
think
Jonah doesn't see it that way. Maybe that's not how you intended. But a behavioral analyst would try to apply the god complex to him.
behavioral analysts need to analyze their own God complex, trying to put everything into a box that is the way it is because you said so is like the definition of your stupid God complex retardery.
So overall, this little slice of a novella got a 60.5 foul cunts out of 100. Originally, I was going to put 60.5 potatoes. What the fuck do they mean out of 100? But I went with foul cunts because it just had
Something.
it had a different resonance. It had a different aroma to it.
There's a part of me that's tempted to just leave the potato thing alone.
And never
Like,
resolve it.
even if I rewrite it, I'm just gonna leave the potato thing alone and never resolve it. So it's just this weird fucking thing that happens for no reason.
So there's that.
I thought the potato bit was great.
But it's just the fact that it does get brought up like maybe one or two more times in the novel, but I'm just like, who was it? Who? Like, yeah, it's a trespasser, but who?
It's somebody that
Right,
Jonah.
and I felt like the potato itself would have come back, would have been what came back to bite him in the ass, not you killed my stepdad who used to fuck kids. That's not true. It's like what? So that was the novella. Although, as I aptly called it, a short story with a glandular problem. Because it could go one of two ways. Like you could have either trimmed this down to a short story or
condensed or expanded.
Or expanded.
It's some kind of a story with a problem.
Some kind of a story with a problem.
Which is an apt way to describe it in general.
So, would I recommend this to?
No.
I'm gonna say no. At least not as a first E.K. Lloyd Williams read. There is
Make
a better
that
book
the other traumatizing book.
Yeah, read the other one that has a touch of politics. Still has religious, undertones.
Cogs.
I mean, there's How to Cure is a little more upfront. Like it's literally angels and demons called light bringers and dark seers. having their hands in, I don't know if it's just the U.S. politics or if it's human politics in general. All we see is the American politics.
I mean, realistically, it would be all over the world. Because you're talking about a different reality with supernatural entities.
So
that hate you for existing. So
if you're looking for a fun read, not this one. It's over there. Go get How to Cure by E.K. Williams. There's a review like earlier in our little set list of reviews.
I'll post a link.
But like, if you're wanting a quick read that kind of does get its hands dirty in more ways than one, I would say that's anyway. This is a quick read. Maybe, I mean, granted, I was reading this for grading purposes instead of just pure enjoyment. Maybe if you're reading it for enjoyment, you'll find a little more satisfaction out of it than I did.
I doubt it.
If you would like to follow us, obviously, I don't know, subscribe. It's been a while. Subscribe.
Oh, yes.
Leave a comment,
subscribe.
Like, comment, subscribe. If you want to follow us on Twitter, she's at E_K_Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Correct? And I'm at JD Clark Novelist. This has been Murder of Prose.
We're also on Instagram.
Oh, on Instagram, I'm JD Clark.
I think you're just...
No, I'm slightly different. Hold on. I'm JD Clark Litfic Novelist.
Okay.
Because I had another account that was JD Clark Novelist, but it kicked me out and like locked me out. I can't even like change the password to get back in. So I just like, you know what? I'm gonna make what was once my, don't know. Someone hacked it or whatever, and it logged me out. And so I'm like, you know what? I'll just make my personal profile my new writing profile. So you can find me at JD Clark Litfic Novelist on Instagram.
Yeah, I think on Instagram I'm just E.K. Williams.
Next on our review list, we're doing bluegrass.
We're doing Samurai Bluegrass.
Bluegrass. I'm gonna bet on bluegrass coming first.
Samurai Bluegrass. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just bluegrass.
Do we
I don't want to appropriate, you know.
Well, unlike writing books, reading books can be done in a relatively
short time,
set frame of time.
Yeah.
Well, we'll probably do Craig next time, whenever that's going to be. We'll work out the details off
it'll be,
record.
It'll be August, for sure.
So look for us next month.
Yes.
Okay.